Gianni Valenti, the keeper of the flame at Birdland in New York City.
And evening is nigh, we'll hurry to my blue heaven.
Gianni Valenti, he makes this place happen. It's a home for musicians. It's a wonderful place for people to come and hear music in a class place. Wonderful food, wonderful service. 2 stages, 2 sets of barkeeps, a wonderful restaurant. Oh, here's my good friend, Ron Carter. You know, Ron Carter's one of the great bass players of all time. And he's still young and healthy and playing great. Look how fabulous he looks. And we also played another job together with Roy Hargrove, a good friend of mine. Ron Carter with Roy Hargrove. These are wonderful people, and they make the most beautiful music. We're just heading in the back door at Birdland.
What good is sitting alone in your room? Come hear the music play. Life is a cabaret of joy. Come to the cabaret. Put down knitting, the book and the broom. Time for a holiday. Life is a cabaret.
And here he is. This is Mr. Gianni Valenti, and I thank you for coming here and taking the time and let us sit on your stage and talk a few minutes.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
The pleasure's all mine, I guarantee it. I just would like to ask you just a couple of little questions, not to take up too much time. I'll tell you, through the years, I always called Birdland the Metropolitan Opera of jazz music.
Well, that's very kind because I feel, and I know many do, that is a temple of jazz. It's someplace where the greatest of the greatest have performed, and the upcoming people are coming in, having an opportunity to play in a professional setting and to be able to show their talents to so many different people.
How did you get the nerve and the incentive to revive Birdland and make it to this fabulous place that it is?
Well, I don't know how much time we have. That's a long story. But in 1985, I met Doris Parker, Charlie's widow. She frequented one of my restaurants on the Upper West Side. And she was very persuasive and wanted to reopen Charlie's Bandstand. And I remember going to her. My father was a saxophone player as well. So we had something in common when we first met. She said that her husband was a sax player. My father was a sax player. I really wasn't that familiar with the real intricacies of jazz. So she said, we need to reopen Charlie's Bandstand and I'll be there to help you. And from that encouragement and her desire, we went ahead and reopened in 1986. And ironically, November coming up will be 40 years later. I'm still here.
That's fabulous. Beautiful.
Well, we're thrilled that we opened our second space in the lower level of Birdland. It just allowed us an opportunity to give the artist another venue to play. In New York, with all the artists that do exist here, there aren't many places for them to perform. What I feel most heartwarming is taking young artists, giving them an opportunity to perform and watch them progress.
Wow.
There's nothing that I can say thrills me more than watching the artist go from playing a 5:30 gig to playing a week gig here to playing Lincoln Center.
I believe it. Being from New Orleans, I love your menu.
Yeah, we do a lot of, well, we figured we'll put the jazz and the New Orleans flavor into Birdland. We always like that.
There were two stages, two bars, two bartenders, two sets of waitress and everything. Could I just let the people know just a little bit, what would a typical day be like for you with all these details?
Well, there's a lot to do. The jazz club is one entity, the restaurant is another. And what we've had to do, and I've tried to perfect it over the last 40 years, is combine the two. You don't want the restaurant interfering with the artist. You don't want the restaurant interfering with the other guests. So you've got to make it work. The most important thing about Birdland, it's a music venue that serves food. You don't need to come in and eat or drink. You're here for the music. But as an accommodation, we offer these two very important parts of our business now. And people have found that you don't only come in and hear great music at Birdland, you can have a great dinner. And it makes a great night. It's an accommodation. People aren't required to eat or drink. But we like it because it gives it a more club-like setting, supper club setting. My typical day is to get here anytime between 12 and 2 and go through the calendars, the bookings, and then the orders for the restaurant come in. I usually end my day by about 5 or 6 in time to open the club and then get from that point to closing. So I have a 10-hour day.
I believe that's probably a shorter day from it looks like it.
And there's 7 days of that.
I think I played at the old location, and I thought it was pretty nice up there. And I was very thrilled of your hospitality and your kindness while I was there, which it's not going to be forgotten.
Well, I remember when you played for us and still do. You're one of the top clarinetists around. There aren't many doing what you do. I think that right now there's 3 clarinet players that have any notoriety, and that would be Ken Poplawski, Anat Cohen, and this gentleman right here.
But that's very kind of you.
Jazz is our heritage. We nearly lost it in the mid-'60s. Artists were going to Europe to find work in Asia, and this is our music. And we need to keep it strong here. And I feel that the last 10 years, it's never been in a better place. And a lot of that has to do with our schools are teaching young people. Young people are getting involved in jazz and in music. And to me, it's very, very important.
Beautiful. I'm right behind you all the way. I love it.
It's all from the same tree.
Yes, sir.
My father was a saxophone player and would tell me the same thing.
I
As
didn't know
long as
that.
you play music. So for me, it's important. And it all starts from parenting to getting kids involved in music. It doesn't have to be jazz. It can be any type of music. It can be
right.
musical theater. It can be opera. It can be whatever it is. And I've always said that students that study music make better students. And they also make better citizens. And this is what we need to do. We need to grow it, keep it strong,
That's fabulous.
and move on.
Yes, sir. Well, you're doing it. And again, I'll tell you, I personally thank you, but not just me. Thousands of others out there do too.
Well, that's always very good to hear because there's a lot of work that goes into it. And it's been very thankful that people appreciate what we do.
They certainly do.
Yeah.
It's fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick Bogart.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Gianni Valente. As a musician, I appreciate what you do, Gianni. You're the true keeper of the flame. I and many people all over the world could really thank you.
In New York these days, Rick finds some of the better musicians in all of the jazz world to play with, like the bassist Leonard Gaskin, who played with Louis Armstrong's band that also featured another of Rick's favorite clarinetists, Barney Bogart. Leonard also played with the other end of the jazz musical spectrum in the mid-1940s, when he was with this group featuring Charlie Parker, Miles Davis, and Dexter Gordon.
Rick is a very inventive dude. I mean, he plays a strange-looking clarinet with gold keys, but he has a good sound, and I guess that's primarily what's important.
Well, Leonard Gaskin was one of the great jazz players of all time, in my opinion. He worked with Miles Davis, Charlie Parker, and believe me, he was #1 call in New York for most recordings in the jazz field. And there's some wonderful photos of him that I have on the show. Leonard Gaskin was a great person. He lived a very simple, straightforward life. He knew how to live life, but he he knew how to play the bass and play music. He's worked with everybody, and I'm thrilled that he worked with me a lot. We did a lot at Birdland, and he always was just as beautiful as could be. And we all miss him in New York to this day. Leonard Gaskin. I think the first time we got together was for a recording session. And he was so fabulous. I said, I didn't think he'd worked his little job I had, but he said, sure. He worked a lot of places around New York. He was humble. And you wouldn't believe it for the things that he's done in his life and experience. He was pretty down to earth. He was fabulous.
What is fascinating about this music, when, for instance, Rick plays with Leonard Gaskin, he knows he's playing with someone who has a piece of history connected to him. He was there on the stage playing next to and with Louis Armstrong. You don't get any greater than that. Louis Armstrong is the #1 individual in the music of jazz. There's also a picture of Leonard Gaskin with Charlie Parker, Dexter Gordon, Miles Davis at Birdland. I mean, that picture doesn't exist in history books. So all of this, it's whenever you're with someone who has been with the greats, you just have that little feeling of you were part of it too, because there's that osmosis, there's that association that comes out of that, and it's just, you just can't buy it. You can't pay for it. It's just, it's spiritual.
When the red robin comes bobbing along, there'll be no more sobbing when he starts throbbing his old sweet song. Wake up, you sleepyhead. Get up, get out of bed. Cheer up, the sun is red. Live, love, laugh and be happy. And now I'm up Central Park West on my way to the Plaza Hotel to do a benefit with Mayor Michael Bloomberg, a benefit for the arts and tourism in New York City.
George, thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. I just came from Williamsburg in Brooklyn. Only in New York could you do this. Anyway, tonight we're here to honor some of the other bright lights.
It had to be you. It had to be you. I wandered around and finally found the somebody who a late great jazz man out of New Orleans, Louis Satchmo Armstrong. He had a lot of hits. Hello Dolly, Cabaret, Blueberry Hill, Give Me a Kiss to Build a Dream On, the Yellow Dog Blues, the Memphis Blues, the Basin Street Blues, the Tin Roof Blues. Here's one you might recognize, a beautiful song entitled, What a Wonderful World. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. So I can't give you anything but love, baby. Now that's the only thing I've plenty of, baby. Dream of one and you just came a while. You're just sure to find happiness now, and I guess all the things you always find. Gee, I'd love to see you looking so well, baby. The diamond bracelets, Macy's, Woolworth, they don't sell it no more. Till that lucky day, you know darn well, baby, I can't give you anything but love. I started out playing the piano, and I wasn't very good at it. And I think I started out, I was 6 or something like that, and I took lessons like every kid. I just wasn't interested, but I got interested in the clarinet in elementary school.
My piano teacher was named Miss Hatchett, and she really was mean, but I liked the piano. So I stayed with the piano, but then when I was about 9 or 10 years old, I liked the clarinet, because the clarinet you only have to play one note at a time. I said I could concentrate on that. Anyway, when I told my parents, I said I wanted to play the clarinet. What? I couldn't believe it.
I was glad to have an interest, have something to do. That was truly where I was coming from, so to speak. I was just an energetic kid. I wanted something to do. I just wanted something to do, something to think about. I played baseball all day long, everything, but I enjoyed something about the clarinet. I don't know what it is.
And then I wanted to be a ballet dancer, but I got too interested in music.
I'm very happy to write this ballet. It's been performed all over the world by major ballet companies. I also wrote a concerto for clarinet and orchestra. I won the American prize for it, and this has been performed by many orchestras and symphonies.
Played in the school bands, and I was listening to jazz music, wanting to learn how to do that, and listening to musicians on Bourbon Street.
That was pretty good. I wasn't always the best clarinet player in school band, but generally, sooner or later, I got to be first chair, if nothing but pure determination.
And then I went to school. I got kicked out of Curtis for playing jazz in the practice rooms too much. So they went to I went to another school called North Texas State University, a big music school there. And I got a music degree in, it was music education with a concentration on clarinet and voice and piano. I was very thankful for that education. It wasn't always just the clarinet. I always had a affinity for musicians who could sing. And I really liked Nat King Cole in particular. It's a lot of others, but you know, Nat King Cole, people don't realize it. He was one of the greatest jazz pianists you'd ever want to hear. But if you ever heard the things that he'd done on the piano, you wouldn't believe it. Nobody could play much better than that. He had so much talent. He could sing, and I like Nat King Cole. I like Louis Armstrong, big time.
It's such a cliche to say Louis Armstrong, because everybody says it, but everybody has different reasons. Some people appreciate Louis because he was an innovator in music and in bringing the jazz solo to the spotlight when it used to be all ensemble type of music, like King Oliver's Creole Jazz Band and those early jazz bands. It was all sort of an ensemble, And Louis came out and made the trumpet a solo instrument, and then the other instruments started having more freedom to solo and improvise. But again, Louis that was his first stroke of genius, but his other one was able to connect with the public at large.
Yeah. Do you feel it was a big advantage living in New Orleans, where you grew up, as far as getting involved in music and the jazz scene?
Well, it was a big advantage due to the fact that there was an opportunity to learn from people that are alive, that you have actually had access to them on a one-to-one basis. And there are many fine musicians that grew up in the heyday of swing music that were playing jazz on Bourbon Street. And I was able to, eventually I was able to get a job on Bourbon Street and work with these guys day in and day out. And I think that's the way that these things are passed down in a way.
And the people that were alive on Bourbon Street that I could talk to, at the time that I was on Bourbon Street, there were big names. They were Al Hurt and Pete Fountain. And I used to talk to them. I would substitute a little bit in Al Hurt's band, but Pete Fountain was a good friend of mine. And I also liked Louis Cottrell. He was the president of the Black Musicians Union at the time. They had two unions in New Orleans. They had 174 was the white union, and then many years later they started the black union, which was 496. So then they called it Musicians Protective Local 174-496. They combined them. And Louis Cottrell was the president of the black union at the time, and he played clarinet. He played a beautiful Albert system clarinet. I used to hear him play all the time. I liked another clarinet player in New Orleans. His name was Cornbread Thomas. He could sing acoustically and play the clarinet. I just thought that was just fabulous.
La lame sur la cuisine, les manger plein, les boire du vin, ça pas goûter les aliens. Et là-bas, et là-bas, et là-bas, et là-bas.
And I had friends so many, Brice Jones, Nick Gagliardi. I could just start naming all my friends, but I was just surrounded by it. And, I just wanted to try to go that way. When I got out of school, I didn't have any money, and I went to New Orleans and stayed with my aunt and uncle in Luling for a little bit. I wanted to get a job on Bourbon Street. They were all union at the time. Everybody said, no chance. People wait years to get a job down there. Well, I got a little apartment in the French Quarter, and I would go out at night, sitting in with bands. And I was working on the SS President at the time as a deckhand. It was a pretty tough job, actually, especially in the wintertime. We were wet all the time, pulling that rope in. But
I had a school teaching license, and I wanted to get a job teaching school in the French Quarter. No, everybody wants that job. You got to go out there in the bayous of South Louisiana if you want to teach. So I did that for a while. And the supervisor came out and he said, listen to me now. You got to remember, some of these children can read reading, but they can't read writing. And some of them can read writing, but they can't read reading. And I said, yes, sir. He said, oh, there's one other thing I want you to know. See that creek out there? You can let them go out there in that creek on recess, let them run around in there, but don't let none of them get snake bit, don't let a gator get them, and don't let none of them get drowned. I said, yes, sir. He said, I'll come out and see you in a month. Well, I got a job on Burma Street, and in my diary at the time I kept, I guess I was naive at the time, but I was probably one of the happiest times in my life. First job, real job, a real union job, playing jazz in a wonderful place. It was called the Famous Door, with great musicians. 6 nights a week. You don't play one job, go home, and wait for a few. Every night, 6 nights a week. When I was young enough, I would do doubles, and I would even take jobs on Sundays. I was the youngest band leader in the history of the Famous Door, which is the premier club on Bourbon Street. It's been around since the 30s. It was the place where all the guys could get a job, where a guy could work 6 nights a week playing jazz. And I had been working there as a sideman. I first got hired as a substitute in June Gardner's band. It was the daytime band at the Famous Door. We just always called it the Door.
Right.
And the clarinet player at the time was Harold Cooper, great clarinet player. And he loved to take Sundays off. So he would call me at the last minute on Sunday morning, you know, like around 10 o'clock or 11, and say, Rick, I don't feel like coming in for 12 o'clock. You want to play? I said, yeah. So there I was. The band leader was stuck with me. So I got in there. I always showed up to work on time. I always had a clean shirt and ready to play, do my job. So I only dealt with musicians. I was there for the music, and I got all my jobs through other musicians and recommendations from other musicians. When I was playing the Famous Door, a lady that booked the Famous Door was the bookkeeper for about 5 clubs on Bourbon Street, and she gave me a chance, and I became a band leader at the Famous Door. And I stayed doing that for quite a while. Then I worked with another great band at the Famous Door, Thomas Jefferson, who I thought was fabulous.
The shark has pretty teeth too, and he keeps them pearly white. Man, it's just a jackknife, said that old Mac here, and that cat keeps it out of sight. Now with the shark fight, with this seed barbada, scarlet billow, stars that spread. Now fancy clouds, yes, west my TV, so there won't be no trace of rain.
What was that like, hiring legends? I mean, these are people that you grew up admiring and just kind of in awe of, and now you're calling them up and say, hey, be in my band.
In some ways it was great, and in other ways it was a little touchy sometimes to handle that situation. But I was able to, we just played music, you know, and there was no real ego involved. We just played music. We just did the job, played these things, these songs that we all play down there. And sooner or later the opportunity came for me to make a couple of records down there, and I did that. And it seemed to be like a real opportunity. It was on a local basis in New Orleans. And, so I stayed there for a while.
And I would sing in the St. Louis Cathedral Choir, which is a Catholic church there in the French Quarter. It's a pretty big cathedral, famous cathedral, the oldest one in the United States. I would sing Sunday mornings in the choir. Mass ended at 12 noon, and I was working at the famous door at the time from 12 noon to 5 in the afternoon. So I would leave about 5 minutes early and run over to the famous door and start playing jazz after singing Palestrina and Bach on and off for the Mass. I was immersed in music and I was thrilled. Grab your coat, get your hat, leave your worries on the doorstep. Just direct your feet to the sunny side of the street. If I never had a cent, I'd be richer than Rockefeller. Gold is in my feet on the sunny, I said, on the sunny side of the street. But I did have a feeling, to a degree, that it was special times. I mean, it really was. It was probably the heyday of Bourbon Street. If you can think of any city that has a street that within the first 5 blocks of Bourbon Street, there were 15 full-piece, 6-piece jazz bands. They were all union, paid pension, health, welfare, dental, eyeglasses, and hospitalization. The first 5 blocks of Bourbon Street, the Blue Angel had 2 bands, the Paddock Lounge had 2 bands, the famous door had 3 bands plus an off-night band. The Maison Bourbon had 3 bands plus an off-night band. Crazy Shirley's had a band and an off-night band. Quarter Two Sisters had a band. The Montleon Hotel had a band, and other hotels outside of the quarter. You got to admit it, that's a lot of music in a little spot like that. Well, I moved because I thought if I stayed down there much any longer, I might get married and never get out. And we were looking at times where it was beginning to change a little bit. And I was working at the famous door, and there was a couple that came in from New York, a very lovely couple. Tom and Sherry Lynn. They lived on East 72nd Street, and
he, he was a financial banker, and they said, if you ever come to New York, you could stay with us. I said, well, I've been thinking about coming to New York. Well, we have a beautiful apartment on East 72nd Street. You could stay with us there. And they're very nice people, you know. And first thing I said, well, do you have air conditioning? That was crazy, but they were wonderful people and gave me a chance to come to New York and find my way around. I didn't feel like I was starting brand new. In many ways, a lot of new people and things, and New York was, you know, it's a tough cookie, I'll be honest with you.
Step to the right, you'll see a little light. We'll hurry to my good heaven.
But in New Orleans, I knew from talking to the musicians, there was a place in Cleveland, Ohio, called the Theatrical.
The names on the marquee read like a roll call of American entertainment royalty: Dean Martin, Tony Bennett, Cab Calloway, Judy Garland. The Theatrical was the on-road home to such worldwide jazz luminaries as Dave Brubeck, Oscar Peterson, Marilyn and Jimmy McPartland, Muggsy Spanier, Cozy Cole, Johar Jones, George Shearing, Joe Venuti, Roy Eldridge, Wild Bill Davison, and the Mills Brothers. Sports legends like Joe DiMaggio and heavyweight champion Joe Louis came to unwind, and so did Frank Sinatra. On Short Vincent, the Theatrical was the place to be. Rick Bogart was a regular for years at the Theatrical.
It was one of the biggest nightclubs of its kind in the country. It was 4 stories high, and it could seat 600 people. They had a grand piano and a kidney-shaped bar. They had musicians that came from New Orleans to play there. They had a number of, well, Roy Liberto used to come there regularly. They had Gene Krupa, they had Doc Severinsen, they had Dorothy Donegan. All the major jazz artists played there. So I had made 2 albums in New Orleans. So I sent the owner of the Theatrical the albums, and he got back to me. He gave me a chance. I went there, and I did good. He called me back year after year, 2 or 3, about 2 times a year.
We have over the last 25 years, we've had a lot of good jazz groups. Rick is one of the best. He's probably one of the best clarinetists that's come into this city.
The timing is just right. As today's modern music is becoming increasingly stale, the second generation of jazz greats like Rick are ready to capture a new audience. Man on Music, Dave Tarbert for Live on 5.
We're glad to have back one of the best jazz clarinetists you've ever heard. Let us welcome Rick and his band. Good stuff. Nice to see you. Good to see. Boy, you guys sound as good as ever.
Oh, we're just getting heated up.
It's early in the morning, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, we get heated up as we get going.
Oh, good. You're going to play another number for us a little later on, right?
Sure.
But first of all, introduce the guys in the band, all right?
Well, the musical director is none other than Jimmy Boyd on the piano.
Jimmy, good to have you here.
Ed Washington on the drums, and Al Russ on the bass.
Ah, good. They're terrific. Let's give those guys a hand, all right? Well, what you been doing since last time we saw you?
I've been in Atlantic City, just got back last week.
Gambling your life away.
No, I didn't go in a casino. I want to keep it. Why give it back to them?
Ah, that's right. That's what I say. Who were some of the big influences when you were learning how to play the horn?
Well, I liked Irving Fazzola, Benny Goodman, Artie Shaw, Pete Fountain. All of the major names on the clarinet were a big influence. And they were very fine, all of them were fine musicians, and I just tried to follow along in those tracks.
Well, you do a nice job, I'll tell you that. Where can we hear you here in Cleveland?
The Theatrical, downtown Cleveland.
How long are you going to be there?
Till the 20th of this month.
Boy, that's good music, and you can hear it right there.
And it was from the Theatrical in Cleveland that I got the job of a lifetime, which was at Harrah's in Atlantic City, working in the Atrium Lounge. The entertainment director, they had 4 bands a day at the time at Harrah's. And the entertainment director was watching the Theatrical in Cleveland for potential acts to play. So when I sent them something, they took a good look at it. And I had to go there and audition in person and bring the musicians from New York. They gave me 6 weeks on the spot with more money than I could have imagined. And not only did I get the 6 weeks on the spot, but by the time it was, they hired me for another 12 weeks that year. And that job lasted 14 years. So that's how I survived in New York. I could see it changing, and finally it did change. And after 14 years, the lounges were really cut back in all of Atlantic City.
Las Vegas, Reno, and Tahoe, and Miami too.
WKAT, Miami Beach, Miami.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Emerald Lounge of the beautiful Sheraton Bal Harbour Hotel, 9700 Collins Avenue on beautiful Miami Beach. This is Bob Gordon from WKAT, and tonight, along with Rick and his band, we have an evening of entertainment we know you'll enjoy. Rick and the boys in the background with Way Down Yonder in New Orleans. How about that? Live from the Emerald Lounge of the Sheraton Bal Harbour, the music of Rick and his orchestra. And I want to tell you, 4 pieces play like wild. It sounds like a 15-piece band. And speaking of 15-piece bands, if I may, Rick, New Year's Eve at this same Sheraton Bal Harbour in the Grand Ballroom, WKAT invites you to join us for a large big band bash. 15-piece band in the Grand Ballroom. Spend the evening with you from 9 to 2 a.m. We'll have just a fantastic time. So we'll hear more about that on WKAT. I'm your announcer, Bob Gordon, and on the bandstand right in back of me,
Yes, Bob, I'm on the bandstand right in back of you, and we've been having a wonderful time tonight with this live broadcast on WKAT Radio, Miami Beach, Miami. I just want to say one thing before we all leave. Thank you to the Sheraton Bal Harbour. Thank you, WKAT Radio, Miami Beach, Miami. And of course you, Bob Gordon, you were beautiful, and it's been a pleasure. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again real soon, in a couple of weeks. So that was quite a change. So when that happened, I was able to go out on the cruise ships as a headliner, and which was a good job. There was still an audience that knew that kind of music, you know. But you saw it coming, nothing you can do but try to cope with it.
Minasama kom banwa. Watakushi wa Rick dis. Dozo. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. Oh, when you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. I see trees of green, red roses too.
I think to be a musician or to be in the arts, actor, dancer, singer, painter, anything in the arts always was difficult. And if a person can survive doing it, I think they're one of the big winners. All you have to do is survive because you're doing what you want. You're creative, and it's very hard to explain, but it's a real blessing to be able to do it.
I've been blue. Prayed each night for someone exactly like you. So why should we spend money? I said on a show or two. No one does those love scenes exactly like you. You make me feel so grand. I wanna hand the world to you. You seem to understand. Foolish little scheme I'm scheming, and the dream I'm dreaming. 'Cause now I know my mama, she just taught me to be true. She made me for somebody.
Well, I'll tell you, in the music business, I always made a rule. I never hurt anybody when somebody did something against me. I never responded. I kept working and trying to make friends. And I'll say this much. I love when Bette Midler sings the song, Friends. You gotta have friends. And I try to keep friends the best I can. And as I'm getting older, I'm losing them. It's not funny either. I miss them a lot.
Our next guest has played in such places as the famous Door on Bourbon Street and Michael's Pub in Manhattan. Let's welcome Rick and the band. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Hi, Scott.
Good stuff. Hi, Rick. The band sounds better than ever.
Well, we're getting it together.
You're one of the best out there. And I want to introduce the rest of the guys here. We'll start over there on piano, if you would.
That's the illustrious Jimmy Boyd, J.B.
J.B., fine job. Back on the drums.
That's Tony Haynes on the drums. Tony Haynes.
And on the upright bass.
That's the one and only Chuck Jones on the bass. Chuck is a distinguished war veteran of 2 world wars, and he's still playing music, and we play Roses of Picardy every now and then for him.
That's great.
I just heard the action countdown, Rick, which means we are actually on the air, and we send out greetings to all those who are looking and listening. My name is Steve DePass, and I have one of my dearest friends, Rick Bogart. And we are people dedicated to the performing arts, to which we have devoted our lives and our energies and all of our talents.
You know, I'm so happy that you could be here. You're one of the great people of this industry. Now, you knew Louis Armstrong. He was your neighbor, and you've seen me. I've known you for years.
The people who come and see you perform, you have a certain kind of graciousness and a particular Bogart way of communicating with these people. I'd like you to explain how is it you're able to reach each and every person separately and collectively so that everybody feels included?
Well, it didn't come immediately. It came from years and years of performing before audiences. I didn't want to play or sing above them or prove anything. I tried to stay right to the point and appreciate the people as people, mothers and fathers, children, families, and treat them with a certain amount of respect and decorum.
Right. For those who have not had the opportunity to see you, explain about your clarinet. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I'm just a little New Orleans clarinet player, and I worked with some good bands on Bourbon Street back in the days when all the jobs on Bourbon Street were union. We worked 6 nights a week, 6 sets a night, and a matinee on Sunday. And it was all union. And I got lucky. I worked with Thomas Jefferson, the trumpet player and singer, Snookum Russell, Murphy Campo, all the greats on Bourbon Street that were working there for many, many years. They taught me, and believe me, when you do it 6 sets a night, 6 nights a week, you either learn it or you drop out.
I enjoy watching you, listening to you, and absorbing that personality of yours which reaches everybody. So I like the idea of referring to Bourbon Street because it is a very special place, as is New Orleans. And you brought some of that with you and it stays with you. But you've been cosmopolitanized in here in New York, right?
Well, yeah. I'm very happy to be in New York, I'll be honest with you. I got experience in New Orleans. I was taught. I didn't come up with nothing too much on my own at the time. But when I came to New York and I started working, when I first came here, all the musicians said, oh, work for one of the agencies that does the private parties in New York. And I thought, well, that's not going to work for me in the long run. I think the only thing that I had going for me is I wanted to learn how to play and sing for the people in nightclubs and concerts and everything like that. So I took the jobs that were 6 nights a week, 5 sets a night. I went to Cleveland and did that. I wanted to learn. And then in Atlantic City, happy to say, Harrah's Atrium Lounge, one of the great lounges in Atlantic City. We worked 4 50-minute shows a day. And I got to know the audiences and how they feel. So I was the host, singer, and the clarinet player. And
George Burns came in one day and he said, I like the way what you do, but you got to remember one thing. This isn't Carnegie Hall. This is a nightclub. This is a personality room. You got to sing, you got to play your instrument, you got to talk to the people, and if you can dance, dance. And I said, I can't dance, Mr. Burns. He says, well, I'll teach you. And he showed me 2 dance steps. And he said, that's all you need to know, just 2 steps.
Wow, so did you dance the 2-step?
I sure did. I still got it in my act.
Yes. I'll say one thing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Every person who comes to the cabaret where you are performing, you know what they never leave with? Unhappiness.
God, that's
They
beautiful.
never leave with unhappiness. And every person who comes and experiences Rick Bogart is better for the coming, has put the time in, and it has benefited them and made them better prepared to deal with the life outside of your cabaret.
Well, that's beautiful. And I hope I can continue to do that.
I'm very lucky I get to sing with the Rick Bogart Trio, and I consider Rick my mentor. He's kind of strict with me, but I put up with it because I learned a lot, and I have a very good opportunity to sing with him, so I'm very happy. What I like about it is that I get to sing the songs that I grew up with. I love those songs, and I think we all love those songs, the Tin Pan Alley songs. So I'm just one happy camper, that's all I can say.
Now, Steve, listen, I want to tell you something before we go. I appreciate you coming by, and it's a pleasure to know you.
Listen, anything I can ever do with you, for you, about you, you know, count on me.
Well, I couldn't ask for more than you spend
What
your
is
time.
what is that song? I said, count on me. There's a song, you can count on me, for sure. That's what friends are for.
Well,
Isn't that what the song says?
Well, we're friends, and let me tell you, I appreciate you, I love you as a person, and I respect you as a person. Right on.
Right on. Keep smiling, keep shining, knowing you can always count on me for sure.
Yes, sir.
That's what friends are for.
This gentleman here is the oldest Lambs Club member in existence.
That's right, that's actually true.
And he carries a lot of weight. This gentleman has the key. You can't get in there without a key.
There we are.
Miss your voice, the touch of your hand. Just want to know that you understand my body, my body. Your body misses you.
My favorite song, one of my favorite songs.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rick Bogart.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Gianni Valente.
And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue.